So welcome to everyone for this workshop web seminar about storage technology. It's nice to have you today. Initially, this workshop was planned in Requisites, and the picture you can see is from Requisites. Requisites, Morocco, where there is one of the biggest, and I think the biggest solar storage plant in the world, more than 500 megawatts. So, unfortunately, because of COVID and travel restriction, we were obliged first to postpone this event, initially planned early in March, and finally to change the shape of this program to adopt a web format. And thanks to the availability of the speakers, it is finally possible to have this event today and tomorrow. So first, I would like to warmly thanks a lot the speaker for having this event possible. To come to the issue and to the program, utility scale storage technologies and the power system integration toward massive RES development. Big program for a big issue. And actually, you know that what is currently happening in storage technology, but also in terms of important evolution of power system, make storage technology a possible game changer for the reason we are interested in. So let's have a look on the program of those today. The program is a mix of several presentations addressing several issues. One is to address rationale and context that made storage a possible option for the future. Other issues are about planning issue, economic issue. We will also address a grid integration aspect that is, I guess, critical for TSOs and DSOs. And we will also mix presentation with real example. So to be more precise on today meeting, we will have pleasure to have a great integration from Antonio Moretti about storage in Mediterranean area, overview of deployment of storage. We will follow with Alexandre Perrin from RT, who will present cost-benefit analysis of energy storage. And we will end this today's session with Mr. Pablo Santos from Red Electrica, Spain, who will present us a real example of storage technology development in Canary Island. I move to a program of tomorrow. Tomorrow program is afternoon, starting at 2 p.m. with a presentation by Claire Lajoie-Mazin from RT, importance of RES for storage system for integration of renewable in the grid. And you know that is a critical issue in Mediterranean region. Program will follow with intervention from Mr. Florent Xavier about connection to the grid, Zoom and automation, and we will end the program with intervention from Mr. Marco Petrucci from Terna about, again, experience in fast region. That is the program for those today. Two things to say in addition. Initially, in Requisites, we plan also to have a presentation about storage technology. It it was not possible for those today to plan this issue, but it is still very, very important. And you know that probably storage technology is currently living a kind of revolution. So it is very important. So as soon as possible to plan a third session about storage technology, I will keep you aware of that. Second point is that because of limited duration of the program, we have 2 sessions of 2 and 2.5 hours. There is no place for Q&A. I mean, no formal place for Q&A. But of course, you can use the chat to raise questions, and depending on the time, we will answer. We will give opportunity for speaker to answer with the chat or with a real live Q&A session if possible. So we will see, but at least don't worry. You can raise your question by the chat, and we will see the best way to answer. So I don't want to take more time. And we'll give now the floor to Mr. Antonio Moretti to present integration of storage in Mediterranean area. Thank you, and have a nice presentation.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Emmanuel. Can you give me the... Okay.
You have the floor now.
Okay. Now you can see?
Yeah.
Yes. Is okay. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. My presentation is an introduction to this webinar, and during my presentation, I will give you a sort of general overview about the relevant issue that compose the storage world. There is an introduction speaking about what is storage, what is the definition, if there is one definition for storage, and why it is important to speak about storage. Afterward, we can see relevant issue for energy storage as one of the key factors for energy transition, the value of storage and the storage use cases. To arrive having a storage overview in Mediterranean and the EU. If I have time, I prepared a short, very short presentation about storage technology and an overview about the international market. So, what is storage? Storage is a tool to absorb, stock, and release the energy in taking from one source and release in the same source, the same scene, or in another thing. In our case, in case of electricity, source and sink are the same. So storage is something that is a sort of buffer inside the electricity system that can smooth and manage a system that inherently is a system for a just-in-time production, because this is the characteristic of the electricity system. Until recently, there was no exact, no precise definition about storage because of the legal framework governing the electricity market and the electricity sector is still a framework tailored about the old dress, about on a system composed by generation, transmission, distribution, trading, and consumption. Storage, it was a sort of new baby from a regulatory point of view, and it has been necessary a long debate within the regulatory authorities in order to agree, finally agree about one precise definition. The definition we refer to is the definition made by EU. This is stated in the masterpiece of the electricity market in Europe, and state that the energy storage means two things. Means in the electricity system, means deferring the final use of electricity to a moment later than when it was generated. Or more in general, energy storage means the conversion of electrical energy into a form of energy which can be stored, the storing of such energy, and the subsequent conversion of such energy into electrical energy or use as another energy carrier. You see, this is a definition that is a technology neutral. This was the aim of the regulator. And this is the definition that from now on will lead all the development of the regulatory development of the storage. The storage is a new baby in the regulation, but it's not a new baby in the application, because in the past storage was a technical solution used for two things essentially. So on one side, for off-grid application, it was used in order to assure continuity in electricity delivery. I think in the water pumping windmill in my country in the last century was quite usual to see this in the countries. Or in the other side, use the storage to improve the exploitation of capital expensive power plant like nuclear power plant that should be operated also when the load was lower. Otherwise, we had a sort of curtailment of the nuclear energy. So this technology was used, and in the north shore of the Mediterranean, in European countries, also in China and United States, pumped storage, hydro pumped storage has been a normal technology, and a large operating experience was gained by the operator about this. In the last decade, substantially in the last 10 years, battery gained some momentum, some room, because of two things. Because battery were known in water pump windmill, battery was there. But the cost of battery was quite high, and the requirement of the grid for storage services was quite limited in energy shift and for seasonal or daily energy arbitrage. After the increasing penetration of renewable in the energy mix, requirement for storage services change. They appear room for other services, for services regarding ancillary services, services for less energy intensive and more quick. So battery gained some room in the application in the energy system, and at the same time, driven by the development of the electrification, automotive electrification, it has been also a very important, dramatic slowdown in the prices and the costs of batteries. So, in the new context, characterized by not yet a massive penetration, but a large penetration of renewable, battery gained a significant part of the contribution for storage services. The new context is just as an example, if we can see the outlook of IRENA for 2050, we will see what is the target for our future. The target for our future is an electricity system characterized by renewable for 80%, 85% of electricity generation, 65% of total final energy use satisfied by renewable. So the transition to sustainable energy system will be based on renewable sources. And this is important to notice because we will see that storage and the renewable are two phases of the same development. When renewable develops, storage will develop. We call this transition to the new landscape energy transition toward a decarbonized world. Climate change driven the necessity to decarbonize the economy. But decarbonize the economy means decarbonize, first of all, the electricity system, one of the main contributors for the emission of greenhouse gas. Decarbonize electricity means use renewable. And use renewable means that the electricity system, as we used to know, that was a system where the variability was in the side of consumption, of the demand, but the supply, it was a dispatchable side, where the operator could manage the balance between supply and demand, controlling the supply. Now, with the supply assured by renewable and the renewable depending on the weather, we have two variability. Variability from the demand, the variability from the supply. Matching the two variability and managing the two variability in order to synchronize the two sides and have in each moment assured balance between supply and demand means that we need flexibility. And this is why storage is so important, because the key factor for this power transformation bring more flexible operation, more flexible generation, grid storage, and all possible tool for providing flexibility to the system. Storage is not the only mean to provide flexibility. It's one of them. In IRENA analysis show a very nice synthesis for this, and they describe the power system flexibility playing around generation, grid, storage, demand side management, and sector cooling. In this sense, the four main sources of flexibility coming from flexible generation, increasing interconnection, demand side response, and storage. Now, all these solutions are advantages and disadvantages. But what we can say in general is that flexible generation is provided mainly by gas peaker, and gas is a fuel. So there are some concern about sustainability. Interconnection means something capital intensive. Demand side response is something that depends from the behavior of the consumer, of the customer, and the willingness of the customer to respond to some automatic or automated chain of control from the supply side. So the electricity storage presents some general advantages given by in this moment the flexibility in use. You can use storage in many ways and at many levels for many services. And last but not least, cost of storage is declining very much. So this is the room for the storage. Irina in its website, in its own website, describe the landscape of energy transition with this nice picture, where you can see that cost and share of renewable configure some room for each solution. What is the value of storage? So the value of storage is inherent to services that storage can provide. And the storage can provide services to all stakeholders across the electricity value, because it can provide services to the generation, it provides services to transmission operator or distributed operator, and it provides services to customers at the end of the chain. Providing at the same time a flexibility, managing the demand and supply dynamics, efficiency, general efficiency, helping the optimal exploitation of the asset, substantially avoiding the curtailment and losses. And it provides the resilience to the grid with applications like black start facilities that enable the maintenance of critical functions for a quick recovery. So energy storage is a source of energy flexibility in general, and more is also a distributed energy resource. This is important because the next model of the electricity system is a 3D model, decarbonized, decentralized, and digitalized. So energy storage is fitting because help decarbonizing and is can be centralized or decentralized. So provide flexibility, but at the same time it can be used in a flexible way. So it's a squared flexibility. Benefit brought by the storage can be classified in many ways, but I think that it is important to focus on electric grid operation performance to end user and for integration of renewable sources into the grid. This is what is more interesting for our aim. It's not more important than the others, but it's more fitting for us. What are the use cases? In the literature, they are listed 40 or 45 different use cases. Each one with its own feature and characteristic. I try to summarize in 5 big chapters. But each application, you can, developer can imagine application even beyond the 45 cases that are being listed. Now, for our introduction, I think that what is important is distinguish between bulk energy services at the bulk scale of the energy, and mainly for energy storage in daily, months, or seasonal energy storage, is energy shift or energy arbitrage services. The integration for variable energy sources, addressing and compensate intermittency in the energy of our output. Providing ancillary services like frequency regulation, load following, voltage support in transmission, distribution, black start, spinning reserve, and non-spinning reserve. Usually, they deliver, these are application power related and for short duration. Storage can provide transmission distribution services in the sense that they help deferring need for capital-intensive transmission or distribution upgrade for relieving temporary congestion in the network. This is achieved temporary addressing congestion by batteries and mitigation the substation overload. To the end, they provide customer energy management services. They system of smaller capacity, and they are installed off-grid or in the premises, residential or commercial industrial premises, mainly for demand shifting and the peak reduction. So you have a very large range of project type, so you have a very range possibility to help the good operation of the system. The project can be installed standalone or co-located. Standalone in every point of the grid, a co-location when you install the system, the storage system, jointly with the generation, mainly to give continuity to the energy production. Another way, you can install in front of the meter or utility scale or bulk, or behind the meter, and this is the end user scale. One of the difference that can be useful to keep in mind, because can be useful in order to choose the best technology for the right application, is distinguish power or capacity application from energy application. Power application require high power output and usually for relatively short periods of time, seconds to few minutes. And for power application, there are some technology that fit better than the other, like capacitor, battery, and flywheel. Energy applications are used for storage requiring a relatively large amount of energy, often with discharge duration of many minutes to hours or days. So for this energy application, technology must much better use CIES, pumped hydro, thermal energy storage, and some battery types. IRENA modified an old table of classification. This is the handbook of USA PRI standard classification of range of use case, most usual use case of storage, modified by IRENA in order to highlight what use can help to integrate variable renewable. And you see in red what is considered more useful for REST integration. In the bulk at the bulk level, electric energy time sheet, supply capacity, and at customer level, power reliability, retail electric, and increased self-consumption, off-grid and transport. There are, for what I know, there are at least 5 or 6 of this kind of table with different classification. But just to have some reference in. This is
Antonio, time is running. Few minutes.
How many minutes I have?
5 if possible.
Okay. Focus on Mediterranean. So, what is the situation in Mediterranean? Mediterranean, we have we can focus our attention in the two shore countries, in South Shore and countries in North Shore. In the South Shore countries, the energy system face a challenge made by the combined effect by rapidly growing demand, environmental concern, and energy security concern. Joined with the declining cost of renewable, the government of different countries are pushed the strategy of energy diversification, leading to important target for renewable energy penetration in energy. And practically all the countries have their renewable national energy strategy with target that are 42% in 2035 for Egypt, 30% for Tunisia, Algeria, 50% in Morocco by 2030. So there is no complete homogeneity of time horizon, but each and every of these countries assumed the target for a large penetration of energy, renewable energy in the mix. In the north of shore of Mediterranean, the driver is the strategy, the European strategy for a new Green Deal, for a Green Deal. New Green Deal is another thing. Fixing, starting for clear target for 2030, announcing at least 32% share of renewable energy. With this, we can see that in the north, in the south, for different reasons, with different drivers, but the direction is the same. More renewable in the grid, and not only more, but a very large amount of renewable in the grid. Now, what is the situation? The situation of deployment of storage in the South Shore is very marginal, in the sense that in 2018 only 464 megawatt of storage are recorded, and market development gives some sign of activity, but very unhomogeneous, through unsolicited offer by international company, cooperation project, BO tender announced and cancelled IPP initiative. Mainly in Egypt with some project, pump hydro project, and storage, collocating battery and solar. And you can see also Jordan, also Morocco and Lebanon. This is important project for the South Shore of Mediterranean. Why? Because in these countries, the solar PV price is very, very competitive. So even joining batteries that are not, they have a price that is not so low. It's lowering, but it's not so low. But the combined effect of very high competitive price for solar and future competitive price for battery can bring to provide energy with a very competitive price for the two for the joint solar battery. CSP is one of the main, probably the 464 megawatt recorded for storage in this sub-region is coming mostly from the CSP in Morocco. CSP face some problem due to the cost. If they reach some solution for lowering the cost on CSP, CSP in this country can be a very important solution.
1 minute.
1 minute. So there is in the South Shore we don't have an actual market for energy storage, but if we look at the driver for the energy storage, we can see that there is a very positive outlook, because the demand for relevant services, for storage relevant services there, driven by the renewable penetration. The cost competitiveness, the low price for PV-based power can lead to a highly competitive price of power. Market framework is practically inexistent or quite immature, but this can be not so bad, in the sense that the lack of constraint, the lack of unbounded framework can be an opportunity for countries, dominant utility or government that considering the deployment of a large amount of storage, they can do directly without constraint from market rule. And finally, the grid is demanding for storage. So these drivers are there. At the moment, there is no market or limited market for storage in South Shore countries, but it will be there. I don't know when, but know if it will be there in the next year. You can find many forecasts for the region. But just the forecast numbers are, take the numbers like direction example. We have a forecast given by Navigant Research that for MENA region foreseen 1.4 gigawatt of storage in 2025. Another forecast done by IHS Market, is another consultant, predict a total deployment of 1.8 gigawatt 2025. Med-TSO energy scenario foreseen 3.6 gigawatt by 2030. So all these forecasts are convergent in the quite important development of storage services in the south part of the Mediterranean region. For the north part, for the EU countries, you have a very large, very important development outlook, driven by the EU strategy that is a strategy aiming to gain and maintain the industrial leadership, the world industrial leadership in storage industry. So it's not driven by the demand, not driven by the, it's driven by the climate change commitment, but is strongly driven by the willingness to be the leader in this sector. And just to finish, there has been last March was published by the EU Commission document, a study about the situation of storage in Europe, and the Europe 28 countries of Europe, they foreseen a large amount of storage. So the big numbers are 2007 Europe presented 280 gigawatt of variable energy. 2030 there will be 680 gigawatt. Capacity more than double, and you will have 100 gigawatt of storage, total installed storage capacity, with 68 gigawatt of batteries. These are the number for Europe. The number for Mediterranean countries, North and South, are not so marginal, because we can have just I will find the total value of RES in the total Mediterranean will pass from 232 gigawatt to more than 500 something in 2030. The RES participation is passing from 38 to 60, and the storage participation, that is the RES total value in total value of storage in 2018, 20 gigawatt, we arrive in 2030, 38, 40 gigawatt. With significant contribution from South Shore countries. They have no contribution in 2000, no contribution, very marginal contribution in 2018, 0.5 gigawatt. They will present expected 3 gigawatt or 3.6 gigawatt in 2030, following the different scenario that Med-TSO has developed.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I tried to summarize, but it's very difficult to summarize.
Yeah, for sure, it is challenging. So thank you very much, Antonio, for this nice and great introduction of this issue, and thank you to mention those figures from Med-TSO scenario. Figures in general are huge, enormous. We will see. It's in 10 years. It's tomorrow morning in terms of planning.
Yeah. Anyway, people can find all the slides in the website.
Thank you to share your presentation. You mentioned value of the storage, and more precisely values of the storage, and you mentioned that storage offers several services. And it's the way for me to give the floor to Alexandre Perrin, who will present us how to set up an energy storage cost-benefit analysis. Alexandre, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Emmanuel. Good morning, everyone. So I will share my screen. So in the meantime, just a few words about me. I work for Arch International for 3 years, and I mainly work for projects to study storage development, storage opportunity for opportunity for storage development for the Ukrainian TSO, which is Ukraine Ago, and also for Icelandic power system. And during these two projects, I did the economic analysis, but also the sizing and some of the technical specification for the storage asset. So I will say a few words about the context of the CBA analysis, and I will present then the main principle. A few words about the ESS services that Antonio have already presented. Then it will be the main part, the methodology to assess benefits of the different services. And the last part will be the economic analysis. And if we have time, I don't know, we will see. I would like to add a few words about the importance of the correct design of market rules to develop storage project. So when you think you start to think about developing storage asset for your system, you have to think what is your need, and you need to anticipate this need, because when the needs appear on your system, it is usually too late. So you really need to anticipate the need to take the right decision and to find a solution which technically responds to the need, which meets economic rationale, which is efficient over the long term. And if you identifying the need too late, you may lead to overinvest in a short-term solution, face the same need in the near future, and yeah, that's all. So it's really you really have to do this reflection before you face a need on your network. So this need usually come with a scenario. This scenario is defined by the commissioning or decommissioning of new power plant, the level of areas penetration, also what will be the demand in the coming year. Do you have development of new uses as electric vehicles or the development of air conditioning? Do you have new network or interconnection development with your neighbors? And do you have new regulation that will coming in the future? So this makes your reference scenario, and this will be the basis of your analysis. Of course, you can never know what will be the exact scenario or what will be exactly your system in 10 or 15 years. So you have also to define some variables. This variable must be consistent with each other to be compared, because you have to compare scenarios that are comparables. And the fact that the solution is technically or economically justified in different scenarios with variables on the level of areas penetration, it will mean that your solution will be robust. So three kinds of services according to your need that could provide energy storage system. So first, you have a service related to supply and demand balance, which is, for example, the need for capacity or the need to avoid curtailment when you have a lot of renewable generation during daytime. You have also the need for ancillary services like frequency regulation or voltage support. In some cases, you could also have a need for inertia, but it's more on Icelandic system. And the last type of services is the flow management. So how could you use the storage to manage the congestion locally on the grid? So depending on the services you will looking for, you will not do the CVA analysis on the same scale. On the two first type of services, which are ancillary services and supply demand balance, you have to carry out the CVA on a national or continental scale, as all our systems are interconnected. Whether for the flow management services, you really have to carry out the CVA analysis on the regional or local scale. So once you have your base case scenario and its variable, this base case scenario is here to also to demonstrate the need. It's in this scenario you will assess and identify the need. And so based on that, you will have to compare different solutions. So the first solution is to do nothing. The other solution is to investigate services provided by the ESS, and the other solution you have to investigate it's what are the conventional solution has the network development, building of new capacity, or upgrading the existing assets. So it's really important to compare at least 2 or 3 solutions in the CVA analysis. So the main principle of the CVA analysis, the main principle is that an investment must be technically and or economically justified. Some investment will be only justified by technical factor. If you are exceeding a technical threshold defined in the technical policy, if you have an external TSO requirement. So for example, if you have new regulation for frequency regulation, if you have a risk of voltage collapse under technical policy, or if you have a lack of capacity, which could lead to endanger the power system. So in this case, the development of a storage asset may be not economically justified, but it's only justified technically. But and in this case, the economical justification will be made between another conventional solution, for example. So as a TSO, our role is really to assess the system value, which is the value for the community. This value is the avoided cost for the community. And during the analysis, we should never place ourselves as a stakeholder. So when a project has a value for the community, this value is not shared exactly or is not shared equally between all the stakeholders. So you will have stakeholder will get benefit from the investment, and some other stakeholder which will lose money, for example. The main criteria to do the project assessment. So you have first the technical aspect, the flexibility of your solution, and the technical resilience. So here we come back to the interest of defining several scenarios to see if a solution could respond or could be technically or economically justified in different scenarios with some variables. About the flexibility also of storage, for example, for battery storage, One of the interests of this solution it's that it's a very flexible and modulable solution. You can, when you have commissioned your system, you can few years later upgrade and add some other module to increase the storage duration. And this is something which is very quick and easy to do, and it's something that you have to integrate into your project assessment. The second criteria is the cost of the system. The third is the environmental and the social impact. So this is to us the most difficult criteria to evaluate, and it's more a green or a red light to your project. You will check if the project does not have a bad impact on environmental and social, and if it's the case, of course, you cannot commission or invest in this project, but it's not something that you will integrate into the economic analysis. It's more something that you will evaluate beside to validate or not the viability of the project. And then another criteria is the security of supply. How your project will increase the security of supply, how it will increase the socioeconomic welfare, and how it will increase the sustainability, like loss variation, CO2 variation, and the integration of new renewable capacity. So the different storage system services. So there is, before to talk about specific services, you can provide services. You can couple an ESS with RES with renewable power plant, or you can have the storage asset directly connected to the grid. To us, for TSO, to us, it's more interesting to have the second solution, to have the ESS services connected directly to the grid, because it will provide the services for all the grid. And you will take benefits of the mutualization, and the service will really suit to the need of the system, and will not suit only the need of one producer. So it's more interesting to us to have the second configuration, because if each producer has his own storage asset, it will only use the storage to modulate its production and to provide services which is related to its production. And you may, at the end, you may have several storage assets which are not, which don't provide a coordinated services for the whole grid. And as TSO, we clearly prefer the second solution. So about the ESS services, so Antonio already presented them a bit before. So you have services which are more related to power capacity, as the synthetic inertia, frequency regulation, and you have services which are more related to an energy services, like load shifting or virtual line. So more you will go for an energy services, more you will have to have a big storage duration on your ESS, and more it will cost. More you will have investment cost. So to justify today, to justify an ESS which provide energy services, it's more difficult because you have to find bigger sources of benefits. But today it's mainly linked to the technology of ESS. I'm not a specialist of the ESS technology. Just to know that the main technology used is the lithium-ion technology on the utility scale storage asset. But we start to see other technology of battery which are coming on the market and which are more competitive than a few years before. And this new technology are more suitable with energy services. So maybe in the coming year we will see diversification of the services provided by the utility scale storage on the grid. Because today the main services, it's clearly the frequency regulation.
Alexandre, yes. We have two questions from the audience.
Yeah.
One is related to if you can give some example of regulation regarding CSP projects. And the other one is related to the application of the storage before the grid or after the grid, slide number 13. You can read the question in
yeah, I will read the question. So please, would you like to ask what is the difference between applying the storage before the grid or after the grid? Okay, so I will start. I will start with the last question. So here, when you have a storage asset before the grid, the storage is related to in this case is related to a renewable producer, so a renewable power plant, for example, PV power plant, and the service that provide the storage is only related to the generation of the power plant. So you will do I've got some slide about it, but so maybe I will present them. So, for example, you can have home control, you can have renewable energy smoothing, or you can have renewable generation shifting. But here, the storage, you don't know if the grid, if the system really need these services, because maybe you can benefit from the mutualization from other renewable power plants, and maybe your system don't need these services. That's why it's more interesting to have the second configuration, to have a storage services which is provided directly to the grid, because you will do the regulation, or you will provide the service for the entire grid and not only for the producer. Do I reply to the question?
Yeah.
And the second question was, please give example for such regulation. I don't know of which regulation we are talking here. It was before.
Perhaps it is a question for Antonio, as Antonio, you raise opportunity of regulation for development.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't speak about regulation CSP in the different region. I only said that CSP can be one of important solution for countries in South Shore of Mediterranean. But I didn't speak about regulation of CSP. And I don't know any regulation specific to CSP.
Okay, so perhaps we can go back to the presentation of Alexandre.
Maybe if the person can explicite the question, I can come back to it.
Yeah, in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. I go on. I go forward. So I think that's all for this for this slide. Just a few words on virtual line. Virtual line is you have to. I don't know if you all know this. These services, you need to have two different storage assets which work, which are coordinated. One will absorb and store energy at one point of the grid, and in the same time, the other storage asset will re-inject this energy to the grid. So you need to really find a important source of benefits, because you have to double the storage asset. So what is the methodology to assess the benefits of each of these services? So first, you have to define some key parameters which will help you to value the benefits of the services. The first one is the value of lost load. So it is necessary to monetize the benefits associated with a reduction of energy not served. The second is the cost of curtailment, because if your system have to curtail renewable production, you have to pay or to compensate the renewable producer, and it's something that you really have to integrate into your economic analysis, because it could bring a big justification to your storage asset. And the third one is the CO2 value. So the main aim of the NESS is to generally to ease the renewable penetration, and then to reduce the carbon footprint. So the reduction of CO2 really has to be included in the analysis. It could be included if you have an existing CO2 taxes. If you have you can also include it through the CO2 allowance market, and you use the price on this market. But generally, the price on this type of market is quite flexible, so it's hard to have a value which is constant. And the third value is the shadow price of carbon. I don't know if I find this translation from French to English, but I don't know if it's clear for everyone. A shadow price of carbon, it's indicative price provided by the government that you have to include in your project to integrate the fact that you will reduce the carbon footprint. And it's really indicative price which are used it's related to the environmental policy of the country, and it's to in order to meet the carbon neutrality in 2050, you can have this type of indicative price. But just a few words again on the CO2 value. To integrate the cost of the benefits of the reduction of CO2 emission, it could bring a lot of economical interest in your economic analysis. But if you really want to be fair in your environmental analysis, you also have to include a study of the whole life cycling of the project, because today most of the for example of the battery are built in Asia, so you have a footprint, a CO2 footprint to produce the battery modules. You also have emission when you import the battery in Europe or in Africa. So it could be a bit misleading to only include the shadow price of carbon if you don't include the carbon footprint of the whole ESS during its life cycling. So the first methodology to assess the benefits of balancing supply-demand services. So here you need to, or we use a market modeling tool as Antares or Plexos. We have a description of the power system with some scenario of load, of renewable generation, the forecasted thermal fleet, and the forecasted interconnection at the time origin of the study. And we have the description of an ESS with the expected power of the ESS, also the storage duration, and the efficiency of the ESS. So the representation in the study of the ESS is really the same than a PSP, a pump storage power plant. So you have to carry out a market study. The best is to use a probabilistic approach with a Monte Carlo method to test different combination of possible scenario. The simulations are done at an early step, and the commitment are made based on the technical and economical rules and characteristics of the thermal fleet. And you get the results, of course, at an early step. From this simulation, you can get three kind of output. So the first will be the loss of load expectation. So you can check if you are in line with your technical policies. You have also the unsupply energy that you will be able to value with the parameter we see just before, which was value of lost load. You have also the system cost with the cost of production. You will see the cost of production has has been reduced due to DSS. You will see if the cost of curtailment has been reduced, also the cost of unsupply energy, and you can get the marginal cost, time series for marginal cost. And also you can have the CO2 emissions, which you could value as presented before. So to assess the benefit of ancillary services, I will just present the principle of this of the study, or how the fact to provide frequency regulation with energy storage asset, why this makes value for the system. So in the generally or before, all the ancillary services were provided by conventional assets like thermal power plant, nuclear power plant, or hydro power plant. And so to provide these services, you have to block to keep some capacity on your power plant to provide the services, and this capacity is not available for the dispatch if you keep it for the ancillary services. Now, if you use a storage asset to provide these services, you can free the capacity, which is now available for the dispatch. So here it's the perfect example on the screen. By liberate the capacity of the asset number one, you don't have to use anymore the peaker power plant, and so you will decrease the cost of production in this situation. So this is really the principle of how storage asset could bring value by providing the ancillary services. So now at the screen, it's really the perfect situation. What we have to know, it's how many times during the year we will face this situation. We face this situation. And what is the spread, the difference of production cost between the peaker asset and the asset number two? And to do that, you will use also a market modeling tool. So the difference before with the previous market study is that in this study you don't represent the ESS, because your ESS is only used to provide ancillary services and not for the dispatch. So you still have your description of the power system, and you will this time include the ancillary services. And you will see, you will compare a situation, or you will compare the cost of the system with the ancillary services provided by the conventional power plant, or the so now you will see how much the cost of the system increase when the conventional power plant provide the ancillary services. And by doing this, you will see if the increase of the cost is enough to justify economically to provide ancillary services with energy storage. So the last type of services is the flow management services. So Here, once again, we use at the beginning we use a market modeling tool, but we will do it in a different way. The two first market study, it's really a market study with no description of the grid or no description of an equivalent grid. Here, to study the flow management services, you have to integrate or to consider an equivalent grid. So you will do the market study, but you will not represent one bidding zone in one area. You will divide your bidding zone into 20, 30 area. And you will have in input the load generation, which corresponding for all this area. For example, in France, when we do this type of study, we divide the French system into 26 area, and for each of this area, we use in input the load profile, the renewable generation profile, and we represent each thermal or nuclear power plant in the tool. So it's really different than the two other market study, because in the two other market study you can have an aggregation of the power plant which share the same characteristic. You have only one load profile for the entire country. So in this study, you really have or you really need to have a more accurate scale with your input. The market modeling tool or the market study, so you use the same principle, simulation at an early step, unit commitment based on the technical and economical characteristic of the power plant, and you will have to define an equivalent grid in your market study. And the difference, the other difference with the two previous study is that here you will use the generation plan that you have in output and also the load distribution. And you will re-inject this output into another model, which is the full description of your network. And with the generation plan and the load distribution, you will carry out a DC load flow for each hour of the year. And you will calculate the flows on your full network for each hour of the year. By doing this, we'll identify the congestion you have on your grid, and you have two solutions to solve the congestions. Either you do redispatching using optimal power flows algorithm, either you solve the congestions with an ESS at the congestion point. And then you compare the cost of the DSS and the cost of redispatching. For the cost of redispatching, you can also including the cost of the CO2 emissions. So the usual lifetime of an energy storage system is about 10 or 15 years. So during this time frame, the power system will evolve significantly, and the benefits created by an ESS may increase or decrease during its lifetime, depend on this power system evolutions. So it's important to carry out the previous study not once at one time horizon, but for at least 2 or 3 time horizon. For example, at the year of commissioning, at the year of decommissioning, or before and after major evolution on the power system. So if you have, I don't know, one of the biggest power plant in your system that will be decommissioned 5 years after the expected years of the ESS commissioning, you really have to do the previous study just before the decommissioning of the big power plant, and also just after the decommissioning of the power plant.
A few minutes to conclude.
Yeah. So now the economic analysis. So the sizing of the system, it's a trade-off using the technical economical approach. So more you will have a big ESS, more it will bring benefits to your system, but more you will have investment costs. So the aim of this analysis is really to find the optimal breakdown between benefits that the ESS brings and the cost of the system. To assess the economical viability of the project, you have to calculate the net present value. So the NPV take the investment cost at the year number 0, and you will start to add the benefits minus the maintenance cost from year 1 to the last year of the project. You shall include cost for removing the ESS at the last year of the project, and of course you have to apply a discount rate to each annual income. And so the NPV is the sum of the discounted annual incomes. So the preferred strategy in economic terms is the one that maximizes the net present value. In the case where we are in a project which is only economically justified. Once again, if your project is technically justified, you may not find economical justification, but you may compare different solutions and you will try to see which one is present the less cost for the system. So just a few words quickly on market design. If you find a value for the system, there is an important question to ask is how this value will be shared among all the stakeholders. Because if you don't have good market rules or too restrictive market rules, no one will maybe invest in the project, and you will lose the value for the whole community. So it's really the most famous example, which is not related to storage. It's the need to create a capacity market due to the interconnection of all the countries. And another example for the more related to storage asset is related. It was in France to facilitate the development of storage assets. The last tendering for market specialty, market capacity, was really designed for the storage capacity because it was reserved for new capacity. It was long-term contract, so it is the investor to have visibility on a long term. And also the tendering was reserved for low CO2 emitting capacity. So here is an example of how you could facilitate the development of storage capacity. I don't know if you have question. I didn't see the chat during the.
Yeah, there is some question. So thank you very much, Alexander, for your presentation, from which we keep in mind many points. You mentioned that service from storage can affect power issue or energy issues, that the cost of storage is much higher when we address energy issue. You mentioned synthetic inertia, for what regards power aspect. Benefit in terms of frequency regulation for energy. You mentioned load shifting, virtual line. And thank you for this presentation where you introduce it. It's difficult. It is a difficult issue, but you present it how to assess those benefits in this kind of market model, and we use this kind of market model within Med-TSO, and where you mention that adding the grid dimension create a very added complexity in this assessment. Yeah, about question, we have two questions. Probably no time to answer, but you can. Yes, Alexander, if you can use the chat to answer. We have two questions. One from Alice. Is about the shadow price of CO2. So a very good question. Do we have in Europe a common shadow price, or is it a question of individual countries? And we have a question from Amal about the best way to address economic viability, to calculate internal rate of return or CBA. I think you start to answer this question at the end of your presentation when mentioning the net present value, but you have the chat to reply more precisely. Thank you again, Alexander.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Time now is to move to the last presentation of today from Mr. Pablo Santos, experience. He will present us the experience in the Canary Island, that is an isolated system with a connection of storage. Mr. Santos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Manuel. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let me share the screen. If you give me feedback if you already see it.
Yeah, perfect. If you can just, yes.
Yeah, sure. Let's try to make it bigger.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, so I will try to speed up a bit just to keep the webinar within scale. My name is Pablo Santos. I work for Red Electrica, and my talk today was intended to be about what we are doing in the power systems of the Canary Islands, the challenge we are facing here, and how storage is helping to overcome it, and how we are doing, and how our experience is being through these late years. So brief word about the Canary Island power system. Well, first of all, about Red Electrica, you know already that is the Spanish TSO, and it's in charge, of course, of the power system in the Spanish mainland, but also in the Balearic Islands, in the Canary Islands, and in the cities of Ceuta and Melilla. So we have different power systems under our responsibility. The Canary Islands, as you probably already know, are not in the Mediterranean. We are in the Atlantic, but we still are a Mediterranean TSO. And in terms of the power system issues and the energy transition we are facing, I think we have a very common problems, not only with the other Mediterranean colleagues, but I would say all over the world. So I think sharing the experience is always nice. We have 6 isolated power systems over 7 islands. 2 of them are already connected by a submarine cable. Our generation is mainly based on fossil fuels, and we have a very low mesh, weak infrastructures in terms of transmission grid. On top of that, we have a high wind and solar potential that makes us have great expectations in our energy transition. The sizes within the power systems in the Canary Islands are quite different between them. The smallest one, El Hierro Island, it's about 7 megawatts peak demand, and the biggest islands, Tenerife and Gran Canaria, are almost 80 times El Hierro in terms of yearly demand. If we compare the islands with the Spanish mainland, of course, we are again quite small. And furthermore, if we compare with the European interconnected synchronous system. So we are facing a transition to renewables, as probably every single power system in the world. We started many years ago. The developments of renewables were stacked for a decade or so, and in 2017 it restarted again. In the last 2 years, we have almost double the renewable penetration in the islands, in most of the islands, most of the power systems. Now, last year, in the overall Canary Islands figures, we reached about 16% of renewables in the demand coverage. And there have been new developments that enter into operation this year, so we expect to have a bigger share of renewables this year, 2020. This is what has been happening so far, but the challenge is really huge. This figure you can see, it's the expected evolution of the renewable installed capacity, which in the islands is mainly wind and PV, in the coming years. The blue and the orange bar are the installed capacity in megawatts of renewables in year 2017 and in year 2020 until now. And the green bar is what is expected to be installed in each of the power systems, or at least there are renewable power plants that have asked for access permissions to the grid. So it's quite realistic estimation on what is going to be in the system in the coming years. The last 2 bars are the maximum and minimum average load, daily load in each of the systems. As you can see, the amount of renewables in the bigger islands are almost around 1,000 megawatts for a demand that range daily between 250 and 550 megawatts, this is really a lot. This as I mentioned before, arise makes some challenge to arise. We have some of them we are experiencing them already. First of all, the system stability. We have as I mentioned, weak, low power grids, and the introduction of power converted connected energy is reducing the inertia in the system, the natural inertia. So we have experienced degradation in the power frequency. We have also experienced the effects of renewable variability in different timeframes, in deep ramps that happen in a matter of minutes, as well as in large variations through the time scale of hours that has made has obliged us to make change in the way we operate the system. There's also synchronous generation requirements due to balancing. We in the islands have power plants the conventional power plants were designed decades ago when the scenario was completely different. The needs were different than the one we have now. And as a result, we have units that are not flexible enough to make room for all the renewables that is coming. And also, as it was also mentioned in a previous presentation, there are some network congestion issues that can arise and that can be solved, of course, with storage, but also with a network development, which is a must in the islands. All in all, what we need is basically flexibility tools in every single aspect of the power system just to make room for such an amount of renewables. Energy storage, it's already been said, is one of the key enablers for this, as we will see in future slides. Network development, as already mentioned, but also interconnections, the small isolated systems, the possibility to build bigger systems, make the systems safer, easier to operate, and more reliable until network events. We must also include intelligence in the network. The paradigm of the power sector has completely evolved in the last years, and now we need more control and more intelligence in dealing with all of the actors in the future power systems. And of course, we need to practice and put in place a lot of R&D to make these things happen. I would like to present now two storage projects that are one of them is already, you already know probably, it's already in place, and the other one is will be in the coming years. There are pumped storage hydro that are in the Canary Islands, and I will show you some how they perform and what we expect to get from them. First of all is the Central Hidráulica de Hierro. This is a pumped storage system which is in a Hierro island, which is the smallest of the Canary Islands. The island has a peak demand of around 7 megawatts and a value of 4. And it's before this pumped storage plant was in place, there was only a diesel power plant in the island. In year 2014, the Central Hidráulica was commissioned and put into operation. And what it basically is made up of a wind park, an 11.5 megawatts wind park, and a set of pumps and turbines that connect to reservoirs placed at different altitudes, at different levels. The idea is to feed the island demand with wind whenever it's possible, and when there is excess of wind power, use it to pump water from the lower reservoir to the upper one and get the energy back by the turbines whenever there's no wind or there's a need of hydro supply. This facility is developed and owned by the local and regional authorities together with Endesa Enel, but it's dispatched daily by the TSO, by Red Eléctrica. What we have achieved so far in Hierro Island with this storage system, we have had several runs being 100% renewable. That is covering the island demand with a mix of wind and hydro. The longest run has been of 24 consecutive days. That was last year, 2018. And we have, since the very first day the system entered into operation, we have reached more than 7,000 hours being 100% renewables in Hierro Island. That has made possible to improve the wind penetration in the island. In 2014, only the wind park of this hybrid pumped storage system was into place. And in 2015, the whole plant was available to be used, and then the share of renewables started to continuously increase through the years. reaching more than 50% in both in 2018 and 2019. And yeah, the month of July last year, we were almost the whole month 100% renewables. This has led the Yarrow Island to move towards the very top of the variable renewable integrators in the world. When we talk with talking about small isolated power systems which are somehow comparable to this one. The other storage project I wanted to talk about is the Chira Soria Pampers project. This is another pumped hydro storage that is planned in Gran Canaria Island. It has similarities with the one I have already described for Yarrow, but it's not exactly the same. Here we have two dams that are already existing dams in the island. We will have one penstock that connects both instead of two penstocks that we have in El Hierro. There's not a wind park linked to the pumped storage plant. We will use the wind produced by all the wind power plants developed around the island. And here there is even a desalination plant to be built, because we need to fill the dams with extra waters. In the islands, we have no running water, no rivers, and the rain regimes here in the islands are not that big to keep those dams with the necessary amount of water. This is a project that will be built by Red Electrica, by the TSO. It was a very old project that was designed to be a generation plant, and has been completely redesigned by the TSO to cover the new purpose, which is maximizing the renewable penetration in Gran Canaria Island while keeping system security, system variables within stability margins. So there were several design requisites that were put into place when redesigning this project. We wanted the system to allow a smooth transitions during start-stop maneuvers, to allow maximum control on the active power in both pumping and generation modes, to allow fast transitions between operation modes and a continuous range, moving from the maximum power in generation mode to the maximum power in pumping mode. And we also wanted the facility to provide all of the services needed in such a weak, small, non-interconnected systems: reactive power regulation, power frequency regulation, both synthetic and natural inertia, and black start capabilities, and so on. The system is comprised by 6 reversible Francis units of 33 megawatts each, coupled with 6 full power converters, and that will allow us to operate each of the units in 3 different modes, connected through the converter, which allows us to fine-tune and control the operation point of each of the units, synchronously connected to the network, providing natural inertia to the system, or we can use the full power converters standalone as STATCOMs. All in all, the final objective is, as already mentioned, to maximize RES integration while keeping security of supply and providing a whole of new services that we as a TSO, but overall the power system itself, will need to reach the ambitious goals that are that the governments and authorities are planning for our power systems. These include natural inertia, synthetic inertia, as already mentioned, regulation, management of rest variability, etc. The overall capacity of the system will be 3.2 megawatts hour, which is roughly 1/3 of the total daily demand in Gran Canaria Island. This is a project that is expected to start being constructed next year. That's basically what we wanted to show you about our experience with pumped storage, but we are doing things with other technologies, as we think not only pumped storage is the solution. Is, of course, when you need a huge amount of energy, it's still the very first option, but there are other problems to solve in such a systems like the ones I have presented. So we are doing things with other technologies. We have a flywheel in Lanzarote Island, which has proven to be valuable to inject fast power whenever it's needed in scenarios where there are unit trips in the islands. We are studying the possibility of battery projects in different systems, mainly to deal with rest variability. We are expecting a lot of variability now, but we are still able to cope with them with the levels of installed capacity that we have. But in the coming years, that will be really an issue that will lead to curtailments, and that we will need to avoid somehow. And we are also testing hybrid solutions. We are part of Horizon 2020 project called Osmose. Most of you probably have heard about. We lead one of the demonstrators with which intends to build a hybrid system in Lanzarote Fuerteventura power grid that will comprise a STATCOM, ultra cabs, a flywheel, and a battery. And the idea is to provide a set of combined services to keep this power system as safe as possible in the near future. This is first of all been developed as a small prototype in a control site, but is expected to be in the islands in the future. And that's basically it. So just to summarize a bit, I think quite fast, the Canary Islands are running into the energy transition at a high pace, and the isolated nature of the systems make several changes to arise. As the TSO, the operators of the islands, we need flexibility tools to be in place to maximize renewable integration. And the energy storage is, of course, one of the key enablers. Energy storage activities can be developed by the TSO in specific scenarios, such as the small, isolated, non-interconnected systems, according to the European Union regulation. But of course, we think that storage need to be developed all across the power sector, because otherwise this energy transition won't be possible. And as already mentioned, despite pumped storage is the main large-scale storage technology available today, other storage technologies, such as, of course, batteries, will definitely play an important role in the near future. And that's all I wanted to talk to you about. I think I have gained some minutes, probably.
No, it's perfect. Thank you very much, Pablo. Very interesting presentation. Indeed, island situation is the way is concentrate all the difficulty and challenge, and very interesting. Also, the scheme of development of hydro pumping storage present with electronic inside is definitely not the typical standard type of hydro pumping storage we used to see in mainland. So very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We can take two questions. We have two questions about that. One is three questions. One is I don't know if you can see the chat.
Yes. So
Yeah,
maybe let's start with from the very last one and move upwards, or which one is the first one?
As you want.
Yeah, okay, this StatCom mode, yeah, it's a mode that allows you to control the voltage of the grid without having any generation behind. So gives us extra functionality, acting on the reactive power of the system. What is the tool used for this PSH system analysis? Why BESS is not used? Yeah, the main reason is because of the amount of energy that needs to be stored. You need a huge battery to have 3.2 gigawatts hour of energy. Of course, this is evolving month by month, and we keep seeing bigger and bigger batteries as time goes by, but there's still no such a battery of such a size. And what was the cost of PSH in Canary Islands and its impact on total cost of delivered energy? Yeah, the estimated cost of the last project, the Chira-Soria project, is around 390 million, almost 400 million. But the estimated savings, it's around 120 million per year, just in generation costs, because of the main generation cost comes from fuel. Fuel burning in the islands is very expensive. We have also combined cycles, but we have no natural gas, so they also burn fuel. So that's the main the main benefit comes from there, integrating renewables versus fuel.
Yeah, I can recommend to have a look on YouTube where you can find a very interesting movie, one about Helio installation equipment. Name of the movie is 100% autonomous island thanks to renewable. And there is also a movie about Chira-Soria project, and probably one answer for why to use also hydro pumping storage is that topology of island offer opportunity to store hydro with difference of rates. That is it is a key aspect,
yeah.
Of course. Key aspect, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Some of the islands are so flat that there's no possibility to develop such a system.
Yeah, and it is not the case in Canary Island. And yeah, again, this movie show geography, topology of the island, and opportunity to have a basin, upper basin in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if no question, I think it's time to close this first session. Thank you again to the speaker. It was absolutely perfect, amazing. Thank you very much.